You may remember in an earlier video we went up to Iizuna because it's a very popular ski area, and I was interested in possibly having an AKIYA in the snow country. And the advantage of Iizuna was that it was only about an hour from Tokyo on the Shinkansen, which was very handy if you wanted to rent it out. And they also had incredibly cheap condominiums there. So we looked at a bunch while we were there, but it turned out that they weren't really a great investment because you couldn't actually rent them out due to the body corporate rules. And although they were incredibly cheap, there were also ongoing costs. So instead, we went up to Minami Unoma, which had a house that I was interested in that I thought might have possibilities as a ski lodge or ski backpackers type of arrangement. And it was pretty good. It had a 3-car garage as well. And the inside wasn't too bad, but it was going to take a lot of effort to actually renovate. So in the end, changed our mind about that, and we decided to go over to Lake Nojiri, which had a number of cottages in the forest that looked really good, and they were very cheap as well. It was only about a 2.5-hour drive from the Iizuna area. We're on our way to Lake Nojiri now, and we're just leaving Iizuna, and the places are very European looking. It's like, I don't know, Switzerland or Swiss Alps or something. One thing we noticed along the way was lots and lots of coloured bridges everywhere we went. And every now and again one of these beautiful little shrines would pop up in the middle of nowhere. You know, you'll be walking along and then you'll find beautiful little places like this. And of course lots of countryside as well. And this is the first glimpse of our lake, Nojiri. And this is our room overlooking Nojiri. Very pretty. And the food was good, as always in Japan. The cottage we came to see was in a little area known as Daigaku Mure, which was a village that was set up by university professors way back, and now was a pretty little enclave of cottages in the bush. Now this place seemed perfect. It had everything that I was really looking for. It was very good price, 21,000 Australian dollars. It was close to ski fields. It was in really good condition. It was clean. And the area around it was really quite pretty with all the forest, and it didn't look like it required much in the way of renovation, if at all. So I thought it was a pretty good opportunity. And the other thing I liked about it was that there was a strong sense of community. The people who had these little cottages out there in the forest tended to get together in the summer and collect wild foods together, to work on projects together, to clean up the area, to generally help each other out. The other advantage of this area was that the temperature was about 3 to 4 degrees less than the rest of Japan, and so even in summer it rarely reached above 30 degrees. Now I could see myself sitting outside on this veranda looking out at the bush and enjoying the spring weather. The other advantage of this place was that it was only about a 10-minute drive from Miyoko Kogen ski resort, which was very handy. Unfortunately, the cottage would get snowed in during the winter, and although they said that it was only a short walk from the administration building to the cottage, it actually was about 900 metres through the forest, which I thought was a bit difficult if you were going to try and rent out the place to people who wanted to go skiing. And the final nail in the coffin was the fact that this was a villa location. And although I looked into it, it seemed that the laws of the Villa Association would not allow you to rent it out, which put an end to any plans for an Airbnb. I'm here with Takano-san from Harben Real Estate, who's been showing me this lovely house here in, how do you say it? Daigakumura, which is the University Village. And it's very nice, and there's lots of places here, so you want to talk to her.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that property is still on the market. If you go to AKIYA, you'll find it under Lake Nojiri. That's as at 1st of March 2025. So maybe it's gone by the time you see this, but it's been sitting there for a while. And it's quite nice if you're not worried about the renting it out issues, or the fact that it gets snowed in during winter, but you can still access it. You just have to walk from the administration building about 900 metres. And there are other houses available there still as well. I still like the idea of the Nagano area because they had so much potential, so I decided to go back there with my daughter when she visited.
I've not consented to this.
I'm here with my lovely daughter. We're about to catch a Shinkansen to Nagano, and we just bought some bento boxes. Yeah. You can buy bento boxes at many train stations where they're called ekiben. To be honest though, these ones weren't really all that tasty, so they're a bit of waste of money and a bit overpriced, which is unusual for Japan because the food is usually fantastic and not very expensive. The Shinkansen takes about an hour and a half to get to Nagano, and the cost is around $80. It's a very quick trip and puts the snow within easy reach. Here we are on the Shinkansen, bound for Nagano, where it's very cold. And we're now in Nagano, on our way up to Zenkoji Temple. Should be fun. Nagano is a pleasant little city, very pretty, and it has a lot of restaurants along the walk up to Zenkoji Temple that you can stop at for lunch if you want. But very nice place to live too, I would think. Zenkoji Temple is quite a large complex, and this is the entrance to it. It's a beautiful place to wander around for the day, or half day, and it was founded in 642, so about 1400 years ago, when they enshrined this image, or Buddhist image, in the temple complex, or in the temple. And that has never been seen since. It's been hidden away since about 654. And here we are smoking ourselves with incense before we actually enter the main temple. We saw this note at the temple, and it brings up an important point. Something you should be aware of in Japan is that even if you have a minor accident in a car, you really need to let the police know, because otherwise you can get in big trouble. By not reporting it, you're actually committing a crime. And we found this nice little ramen restaurant. We just have to wait for a little while. After leaving Zenkaji, we got our hire car and headed off into the mountains, stopping at Lake Nojiri along the way and then to our guest house. So we made it back to Lake Nojiri and I'm showing my daughter around. There's the torii gates over on the island. And I think this is one of those fishing boats. They go out and they have heaters on board to stay warm, and there's a central section where you can actually fish in the middle of the boat. And this was our guest house in the mountains. It was a great place and very comfortable. And even though this is breakfast that you'll see here, the meal the night before was probably one of the best meals I've ever had in Japan. It was fantastic. We enjoyed our stay, but it was time to pack up and head off for sightseeing. We're now on our way to Togakushi Shrine, and it's about 3 degrees, I think. Yep. It's a bit cold, but the area around here is really spectacular above Nagano. Something you never think about in Australia. Beware of bears. In Australia, we have other things to worry about. So we're coming up to the entrance to the main shrine, or the pathway to the main shrine, and it's surrounded by these really tall old trees, which are very impressive. You can hear the tinkling of bells as you wander around the paths from other hikers, because they think that bells will deter the bears, and the bells are placed on the backs of their backpacks, but the research shows that it doesn't actually do anything. So you can see it's kind of cold up here. Bit of snow on the ground. After the flat part, it was all uphill. The steps go on and on and on. And this was the shrine. It's pretty nice, but not overly impressive, and it's a long walk in, so you have to make up your own mind whether you think it's worthwhile. And after all that, it was time to walk back. Now, it's a very pleasant walk. I wouldn't knock it. I think it's worthwhile doing, and the trees are spectacular. So we've just gotten to Kigami Lake, which is only 6 minutes away from the Togisaki shrine, whatever. But very pretty. Look, mountains in the background. Woohoo! Starting to snow. We've just stopped off at Myoko Kogen ski resort, which isn't really open yet, but it's a really nice building, and they have this display including our friendly bear. That's great. Tells you about all the plants and animals in the area. Yeah, lovely spot. And we're just having a coffee before we head to Akakura. We might have a look at a waterfall. And yeah, great trip. I recommend this area. It had been a busy trip, so it was really nice to just sit down, have a coffee, take a break for a while, and just watch nature for a little while. And this was a really nice place to do it, so I recommend Miyoko Kogen, and especially if you're going to go there in the ski season. Arigatou gozaimasu. And so now we are just chilling for a little while, having a coffee, and then we're heading to a waterfall, and then Akakura. All good. We did go to Akakura, but there wasn't really a lot to see there, so we headed back down the mountain. Before heading back to Nagano to catch the Shinkansen back to Tokyo, we had one last stop, and that was at a soba restaurant not far from Miyoko Kogen. And it had been a really great trip, and it was a nice way to finish off. The area around Nagano and Lake Nojiri is quite beautiful, and I think it'd make a great place to live. There are also plenty of cheap houses to be bought there, AKIYA in villa areas, but also around the town. And they're not that expensive, so worth having a look, I think. We enjoyed Nagano and Lake Nojiri, which were both quite beautiful, and there were plenty of places up there that we could have bought. But as I mentioned earlier, there was the issue with the fact that you couldn't rent the place out due to the rules of the association. And secondly, to get to the house, you had to walk from the administration building through the snow for 900 meters, which was okay for me as an individual. But if I was renting the place out, that meant that people would have to park their car and walk through the snow for 900 meters, carrying their luggage and all the rest of it. So I didn't think it was really going to work, even if you could rent the place out. So I'm not ruling it out. You might like that environment, which was very nice. And if you're not interested in renting a place out, if you just want a holiday home, or you just want a place in Japan that you could live and has a good sense of community up there, then yeah, I'd go for it. And you'll see that there are a number of houses available. If you get onto AKIYA Mart, you'll see many places in the area. I've got some big news coming up, probably next video, maybe the one after. The journey is going very well, and I want to tell you what's been happening, but I won't jump the gun until everything's in the bag. So maybe the next video I'll tell you about it. But in the meantime, if you're interested in buying a house in Japan, then get my book, Buying a Cheap House in Japan. It's only $5 US, and it will guide you through it. And also click like, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. See you soon. Bye. Oh, you like my new haircut? Military style. Haven't been in the military for 30 years, but I like the style. Comment below. See ya.